of his skills and hit points and everything like that will be, geared up in a relative, amount, kind of like City of Heroes, if you ever played that game. So you can still play with your friends, different levels and stuff like that. So that's kind of that situation. If we do have a level cap, then what you would probably be doing is spending your XP to respec the heck out of your character, try all kinds of different combinations, run around finding things for your house, conquering outposts, competing with other clans for dominance. Pretty much every single thing you can do in the game, you can compete at it. For example, if you build an oven in your house and you start cooking stuff, well, let's say you're going to cook, a pie, like say in the video. Well, you can crank out regular strawberry pies, assuming you have the flour and the strawberries, just for people to eat, which heals them out of combat. But let's say you want to make what's called a competition level pie. Well, then that launches a mini game. Say it might be match 3 or something like that, a little mini game, and the score that you get in that mini game is the score of that competition item, and then you can submit the things you make for competition every day, and then whoever wins that day, they earn rewards. If they submit it on behalf of their clan, they earn honor for their clan. So you could make the best longsword or the best plate mail or the best pie and submit it. So everything that you do in the game has like a competitive element, and a lot of those things are player skill based rather than character skill. So even if you were capped out at level 100, you might do various competitive things like that because they would be valuable infinitely for being on the top of the leaderboards and being famous in the game and boosting up your clan and stuff like that. So to kind of recap, level cap, maybe not, but even if there are so many different ways to like play and compete that even if you're capped out, there's still tons of stuff to do.
Man, you make me already want this game.
Yeah, and then my last question, and it may be answered somewhere, but again, I was just pulled in, is what initially is the size of the world going to be starting at, roughly, rough estimate?
Let me hold on a second. Let me yell across the house to my wife and check. Hold on a second. Hey,
Got a good question there.
Yep, K is awesome.
It's always heartwarming to me to find a family-made game, let alone a family-oriented game.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Frog
digging
Dice.
a lot of the responses alone. It sounds good, man. Sounds really good. I'm digging it.
They are a good group of developers.
So I got the answer back, and this is a tricky. Here, I'll explain why this is kind of a tricky way to answer. The way that our world is generated, we have kind of like the same world map that you see in Dungeon of Elements and Rainmaker. That's the same world map. We have a pixel by pixel version of that map, where every pixel represents like a type of biome. Like a certain color green is forest, a certain color green is ocean, and stuff like that. And we generate the entire world, including the zones and everything like that. And I think the map is 1,000 by 1,000 pixels, so something like a million rooms. And since you're moving, like if you've seen the video, one square at a time. In theory, that's something like 1 million rooms in the game. Obviously, a lot of those are kind of just open terrain; they're not a big deal. But and then not only are there specific locations that once you find a point of interest on the map, like a city or a town or a cave, you go inside, and then there could be another couple hundred rooms in there. And then on top of that, while you're running around the world, you're getting random dungeons. You're just running through the forest, and as you're running, there's always a random chance of a random camp or a random mine or a random cave. And if you pass it by and leave it, then it's gonna despawn and go away. But if you go in, there's another couple hundred rooms. So it wouldn't be wrong for me to say the world is infinite in size. The overland world is probably like 1 million. We're probably going to kind of section it off to keep people on one of the continents early on. Again, so we like there to be player interaction. So we'll probably section it off to that one continent. So 333,000 rooms approximately. But in a way, it's infinite because there's encounter areas like infinitely. So.
All right, great. No, that's perfect. Sounds great.
You
Now,
had mentioned Diablo previously, and I'm just being reminded of the concept of infinitely random active content. And it sounds like that's what you're going to be going for, and that's going to win you a massive amount of praise in a large crowd.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, man, that turn-based thing is really loving it, because it's more for the strategy you can put into that is so much more into the turn-based. It's so crazy. I didn't realize it. I just got into it recently of how much different it is. I've always played the action type or the real time, and wow, what was I missing out on? A lot.
Yeah, to an old guy like me, who I'm 42, so I've seen like a lot of kind of trends happen in gaming. Like, I think what happened is, a lot of games were turn-based like 20 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, and some of that was technological. Like, real-time was just really freaking hard. You needed a lot of processing power, so, turn-based was easier. So when the technology came, to be able to make real-time games, everyone kind of associated real-time with the game is superior or the game is newer. So it took some time for people to realize, wait a second, real-time's not superior, it's just a different kind of game. Real-time's not any more superior than, say, sci-fi is superior to fantasy. They're just both two different things. And I think now we're starting to see, with like Banner Saga and that Beyond Divinity, we're starting to see some turn-based games, and people are like, man, turn-based that's not a negative. Turn-based can be actually pretty badass.
Oh yeah, and that's the one that actually got me into it recently, was Divinity. Wow, that's the strategy is so much different, man. I was just shocked. And once I started looking into it, and other games, not just that one, just the other ones that I had missed, I said, man, I left out a whole genre because I said, it's not for me. I just kind of blew it off. It's not me, man. And I'm 37, and I'm going back and I'm playing these games, and I'm like, man, what I'm missing out on. So I'm having a good time with it because I get to go back and play things like Dragon Age or stuff that I never played. And I'm hearing that, oh man, it's a great game, go try it out. And yeah, I'm digging it, man. Everything. I just want to play. That's really what it gets to.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I am. And I always think it's important, or it's good, when you can make a game that's the kind of game you would love to play. That passion always goes into the game. And I mean, I don't know if you ever played the Gold Box game, Dungeons and Dragons games, or Temple of Elemental Evil, or Baldur's Gate, or Planescape Torment. Now, Baldur's Gate and Planescape Torment, they were turn-based if you turned on the auto pause, but they were really pretty much turn-based. But I love those. So much thinking and planning, and like each attack is meaningful. Rather than 80% of my attacks are, quote, white damage that I don't really care about. And, it's not that those aren't fun, because those are fun, but it's nice to play this other way that's a little more cerebral and a little less twitch.
Yeah, I love cerebral games. Any game that makes me think is a good game.
Unless, and your mouse will thank you for it. And I always listen. My dad, man, you mentioned Diablo earlier, Jada, and my dad, man, he's like, it's like literally his crack. I mean, he will click all day long, man. And I tried to show him a couple times some other ones, and I think I'm starting to get to him. He's starting to see, because his thing is he can't keep up with all the clicking and all the stuff and the action type of games now. So he's starting to see, even when I started getting into it, he said, I might even like that. And I said, yeah, I guarantee you would. I think you would like it. So, yeah.
So are we going to get your dad involved in Stash?
Most likely. I'll try. I'll definitely show it to him.
Hopefully he'll be interested in it. I'm excited about it.
It sounds like something he would like. It definitely sounds like something he would like.
The start of my gaming adventure was entirely turn-based combat and strategy. So every name that's been dropped is something I grew up on.
No doubt.
Every turn-based combat. And I can probably drop names that you may or may not have heard or would never think to touch. But the toughest most challenging and most beloved fights I've ever found and encountered, and I mean boss fights, I mean standard fights, have all been turn-based combat. So the greatest challenge for Stash is to have truly epic boss battles, because it's not so difficult to make a more engaging final fight than, say, from the Halo franchise. Because you've only got 45 seconds of a final boss fight with a first-person shooter to compare to. It is significantly a higher bar to compete against when you're going up against any turn-based fight scene that could take 45 minutes to 7 hours. So I'm very interested to see how the fights themselves will go, how player connectivity with fights, and again, epic boss battles will go.
Man, if there is a 7-hour boss fight, don't call me.
Yeah, I think stuff like that would happen. That's the kind of stuff that can happen when you, like, and especially back in the old and all those turn-based games, where you were basically pushing yourself. Where, like, say you were level 10 and the game really expected you to be like level 14, and you were going into it really early, and basically you were making up the difference through just insane tactical and strategic moves that resulted in it being a really long fight, because you were like, you know what if I did this, and then I could kite him here and I could do that. But sometimes that was amazing, because you're like, sure, I could have gone and just leveled up a few times, but you know what, no, I beat this guy when I was on level 10 because I tricked him into, like, following me around walls and just staying out of range and all kinds of cool stuff. Which, yeah, you do that in Twitch games a little bit, but it's so much cooler. I mean, it's almost like a literal chess match, because, you know, you're moving around on a grid just like chess. That can be really cool. But yeah, I'm looking forward to those too. We have a guy that we hired 2 years ago, and his specialty was AI, like when he was in school and getting his degree. And he's been waiting for this game too, because that's what he wants to do is have cool AI programmed. But then it's also the pacing, because it's not just the AI of the boss, it's the pacing of the entire encounter, you know, figuring out ways that aren't really challenging from an AI standpoint to be like, okay, if they get the boss to this you know, health percentage, or if they make this happen, then we'll have this event happen. Like reinforcements arrive here and do this, or reinforcements cut you off here, or something like that. And to that, basically, both myself and my wife are going to really lean on a lot of our D&D experience. I mean, I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for like 35 years. For her, it's pretty close to that too. And that's what really good, and we both DM'd. So that's where being a good DM, I mean, is all about, is knowing how to pace your encounters so that they're cool, and we're going to lean on that a lot. I definitely think that our tabletop gaming experience is going to be almost as big of an influence as our video game experience, because I think that's really important in a turn-based game.
Oh,
that sold me right there, because that's exactly what I started on. I actually started not on D&D. Well, actually, it was D&D. We started on the old red box. Remember the red one with the dragon on it?
Oh, yeah, the red dragon on the front?
Yeah, we did that one, and then the next one we started on was Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, and I'm trying to remember the picture. I think it was the wizard with the dragon in the background. I think it was Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition's the next one we tried. And then we went to go play things like Shadowrun and things like that. So,
love Shadowrun.
Good times. Yeah, Shadowrun was good times. Yeah, and it's like you said, the pacing. I mean, you could make a simple goblin encounter epic in a full 6-hour night if done properly. Whereas, you know, in games today, you see the goblins, you go and smash it with 2 left clicks, and it's dead, and you're on to 50 million other goblins. It's I like it to where each enemy has like impact or whatnot to your gameplay, and you know the experience you get from just playing the game and interacting with just something as simple as a goblin. It may not be just that simple, because it's an encounter, and like you said, pacing is what it's all about. I'm loving the D&D backgrounds, and just tabletop in general. That's definitely, I'm loving it more and more, man.
Yeah,
Cool.
I want to see more tabletop games coming to PC. Because it's hard sometimes. I mean, I love playing tabletop games. It's hard finding people to play with in real life, and it's like, yeah, I've got so much better